So I'm just gonna take you through a very simple program just to show you how you can call some of the APIs that are offered by the Quick App ecosystem, basically. So as you can see on the screen, we're looking at the IDE. After installation, when you open it for the first time, this is how it looks. And as you can see, it says new project already, and you can click new project. You will see this dialog screen. The first thing that you see is basically you need to provide your app name, the package name for your project, and you can choose one of these templates down here to actually kickstart your application. So we're just gonna name it location demo and just give it a package name. Very simple one. And we're just gonna press next because we wanna build it from ground zero. And so you have these few folders which are actually auto-generated for you so that you can actually start coding. And as you can see on the right side of the screen, you have your device connected to your laptop. You can then be able to see and interact with your laptop, actually, your phone. And as you can see, you can sign, you can actually swipe left, right, or whatever. And in this case, we're just going to actually start digging into the code with our simple application. The application is basically going to actually uh, use our location API as well as the network API from the system to give you status information about which kind of network you connected to, as well as the longitude and latitude, the speed, as well as the time of where the user is. So just to get started, we're just going to come onto the features. So this is where you actually call the APIs. And the IDE, the nice thing about it is that it actually also offers auto-completion as you're coding, so you don't really need to know every API that you're going to call. You just need to know the name, and it will help you code faster. So we're just going to say location, answer. Um, Now adding the network. Oh, sorry. And for importing the APIs, we're done. Now we're just going to go to our one of the pages that we have on this app that we have, which is auto-generated. And if you're familiar with Vue.js or some of the JavaScript frameworks, you can see that you have a template where you can put your HTML, your style tag where you can put your styling, your CSS, and the script tag where you put your JavaScript. So yeah, so we're gonna start here and uh, take this out, put in some little bit of code, which will help us. So before we actually do that, I'm just gonna copy some styles which I've created before to just speed up some of this coding session. And these basically will just make it look a bit nicer, for just other than the hello world, which is provided automatically. And now we're gonna add some tags to basically show the data that we'll be retrieving from the APIs that we're using. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna have a div, and we're gonna give a class container, which will basically give us the background, which you'll see at the end does have a little bit of color, make it look better. And we add text, which will be the title. And we're just gonna call it status. And now just to add a few more information from the API, div, and I'm gonna call this info. And from here, we're gonna add a label, We're not going to use any of that. So here, basically, I'm just writing the labels for the data we're going to be retrieving from the location API, and the actual value is going to be text. And it also won't have a class, just to keep things simple. And so since we can use ES6, we can do destructuring of our objects from here, so that we can access the data from the objects themselves. So I'm going to name the object location data. And we're going to get the longitude. And yeah, just to give you a bit of a feel of how that goes. And then I'm just going to copy and paste some of the other stuff, because this is mostly the HTML part of the code. And it will look basically like that. Now, we're just going to come down where we're going to write our JavaScript, where we'll be importing most of the APIs. And we're going to do this on the init method, because I'm not planning on adding any buttons at the moment. So immediately when the screen loads, it will actually just start calling the APIs themselves. And one of the nice things here, it will actually have access to all the lifecycle methods. So like I said, on the init method, we'll call the APIs so that we don't have to prompt the user for any of the interaction to get the location. Yeah. So we're going to say this. So we're going to create a variable to self, which will allow us to actually access the information from here. So data is where we're going to create our variables, which we are able to access from the template up here. So we're going to create location data. As you can see, it already knows that we need to do something with it. And we're going to give it an empty object. And then we're also going to create network type. So that we can actually access that information as well. From the top. So I'm going to do that. And here, we're going to need to actually import the APIs which we've declared in our manifest.json file. So we're going to be importing our location. Similar to how you were doing in the manifest file, you actually don't have to know the actual names or type everything from scratch. You can just write im and then the name of whatever API you're trying to use. In this case, we're going to be using network. And yeah, that's done. So we're going to have access to these APIs down here as well on the init method. So like I said, we're going to say const self, which we're using basically ES6, as it has been mentioned earlier that you can use ES6. And I'm going to say this. And now we're calling the geolocation. So we're just going to say geolocation. And as you can see, it actually suggests which methods are available for you to use. You can use choose location, get location, or subscribe. Subscribe is usually much better if you want to actually get the user's location from the background, and it keeps on tracking the user from one location to another. That will give you the data that you need, as you can track the user's movement. But if you just use get location, like right now, it's only just going to get the location of where I am, and it auto completes most of the code that you're going to need. So from here, we are gonna actually close that part and remove this code so that we can actually provide information to our location data um, variable. And then we assign some values to it, which come from the data variable. So this is basically a callback which will receive the data parameter from the location service, and from the data object, we are able to get things like longitude. Um, and basically, we can just say data.longitude. And yeah, just latitude. And we're just gonna get the time. Let's say data time and the speed. Well, in this case, the speed will actually not be very useful because I'm actually standing, so the speed is going to be 0 automatically. But if you wanted to actually get activity tracking for your users in terms of like how fast they're moving and stuff like that, it's a useful element to actually get from the data object. But this is actually not just the information you're able to get from the location service. There's much more information, but at this point, we're just going to keep it simple. And yeah, we're all set up for our data, location data, data that we're actually going to be retrieving from the API. And at this point, we're just going to let it log whatever error that we get. If the user actually hasn't given you permission, or there is a network error of some sort, it will be returned on this callback function here. So there's a success callback and a fail callback, which basically handle the success scenario as well as the fail scenario automatically. And after that, we are going to be calling the network API. And it's going to be network dot. So as you can see, we can get either subscribe to the network so that we can get constant feedback as to what kind of network the user is using. So for example, some things that you want to do, you might want your users to actually be connected to Wi-Fi other than actual cellular data. With that, you actually want to get the type and see actually if the user is using Wi-Fi data, so that you don't actually download really heavy stuff with the user's data. It's usually better to do that through Wi-Fi, and and also it's going to give you an autocomplete. And in this case, we're just going to use our network type variable at the top. And we're going to say self dot network type, and we're going to assign it the data. And as we need to come back here at the top and actually change that variable to network type. And this is mostly the code that you're going to need. Cool. And now we're just going to try and run it on our device. As need to save that and come back to this file and save. And then we can try run it. Oh, see, here the debug console lets you know exactly what is wrong. So just gonna go there, and you can control click, and it will take you to where exactly the problem is. And in this case, we actually probably have too many divs. Yeah, let's just fix that for now. I'm gonna do the container. Okay, cool. That container class, actually, we need to do that. And come back here. So the reason why it's actually complaining is because you need one root element for the template. You can't have multiple root templates, as it actually says on the error down here. And yeah, now we should be good to go and run our app. So that is how it looks. And we seem to have an error, so which is the longitude, which is not defined. That is down here on the JavaScript. So we're just gonna need to fix that error just now. Let me just take this down. Control F. There is our error, and we are actually done now. And yes, okay. So we're gonna try and rerun it. And now, oh, location. Oh yes, we need to put data. Okay, cool. We need longitude. Yes. On the just to actually see that better. Sorry, that actually doesn't. Now I just need to come back up here and actually fix the actual error. Longitude. Probably might be a spelling error. So let's just do this. And move that. So just to let that help us a little bit, it says longitude of undefined. Okay, cool. So, oh, one of the reasons why it's actually throwing an error is that it requires me to actually allow location first. So I'm gonna do this actually. Change that variable there. Yes. A little bit. And yeah, there needed to be some spacing. And now we save. And yeah, it's good. So basically, it's going to ask the user to whether accept the location tracking while in use all the time or deny. But in our case, we're just going to assume while in use. That's usually a good practice to do because very few use cases actually require you to track a user's location on the background. So try to actually help the users allow you to use those permissions by making them understand that you're only going to use it while in use. And as you can see, all those values and the type of network I'm using is Wi-Fi. And as we can just change it here and then just refresh, it will change to 4G. and you are now done actually calling the APIs, your network and your system API, your location API. So you can just check out the documentation to see a lot more APIs which you can use from the actual Quick Apps API system. So yeah, that's it from me.